Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my podcast, Ask Me Anything. Through plenty of ups and downs in my life and have learned a lot along the way. But now that I've got a midlife crisis reinvention under my belt, I know it's never too late to learn something new. That's why on this podcast, I'm going to be talking to Kiwis from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. And can you believe it? It's the final episode of the year. 2022 is almost done and dusted and Christmas is just 1 week away. For my final episode of 2022, we are going to focus in on starting a business and managing the risk that comes with it. To do this, I am joined by property developer Stonewood Quay Managing Director Max Key. Now, I obviously met Max many years ago. I was trying to think Max a long time ago while working with his dad, former Prime Minister John Key. So I'm just thrilled to have Max in for a chat today. Hi, Max. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I was thinking, would it be about 9?
Yeah, I'd say it was probably 2003.
Wow.
Probably 8 or 9.
Yeah, young.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to talk a bit about that growing up. But first of all, how are you with rules? You look like you're a rule breaker. Are you a rule breaker? I'm going to tell you the rules of my podcast.
Okay, yeah, tell me it depends on the rule. I break some rules, but pretty on the straight and narrow.
Oh no, mine are these are Paula rules, so they're really easy. First rule is I am allowed to ask you anything, but the second part of that is you don't have to answer.
All right.
Because no one likes silence
when
people are actually listening. So you just need to zip it if you don't really want to. And the second is, and I'm sure you'll go with this one, this is a safe space. So we do my daughter and I call it the no judgy.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so can't judge other people, can't judge ourselves. You can say anything you like.
Sweet. Anything goes.
Yeah. Okay, we'll kick you off with some icebreaker questions.
Yep.
Favourite music?
Probably like rap or house music.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And has
Depends
it always been?
Kind of, yeah. I think Dad used to have like the Now 17 CD in his car and the Ford Falcon. You probably remember that guy.
Yeah.
So I used to like Eminem a lot when I was younger. And then, through the years it's kind of progressed. I like house music, deep house, chill house.
Yeah. I can do Slim Shady on karaoke.
Can you?
Yeah.
Maybe that could be a little segment of the podcast one week.
Best thing about summer?
Summer, I love the beach.
Yeah.
Real big beach guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So water.
Love the water, swimming, surfing.
Yeah.
Love golf.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not the water.
No, but
I love that part of summer and just, spending time with family.
Yeah, cool. Best advice you've ever been given?
Do something you enjoy and you'll never work it out in your life.
Yeah, it's a goodie, eh? Let's talk a bit about that. It's been a pretty big year for you.
Yep.
So I want to start with the Jiu-Jitsu World Champs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw you on TV being interviewed and I was just absolutely amazed by it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell us all, what is it and how did you get into it?
So Jiu-Jitsu is like a ground-based grappling martial art. So it's kind of like wrestling, strangling, chokeholds, knee bars, arm bars. And long story short I was listening to Joe Rogan. He's a black belt in it.
Yeah.
And he kind of just talked about it's really good to do things you're really bad at because it teaches your brain to relearn things and keeps your mind active. And I've never been a very aggressive kind of guy. I grew up with a sister. I was never wrestling my mates or I was never that kind of kid. So I was I'll be absolutely terrible at this. So I just thought, why not throw myself in the deep end and ended up falling in love with it. And
you've always liked fitness though?
Yeah, love fitness. Yeah.
You always say that's always been important to you.
Massive. But I've always kind of played ball sports.
Yeah.
Like golf or baseball or tennis or I've never really done a martial art or.
Tell me about the discipline component of it and I imagine mind, body and spirit, yeah?
Yeah, that's kind of one thing that drew me to it massively. Obviously you have to keep your gi very clean and there's a lot of respect, you bow at the start. You always have to shake the hand of the most senior person when you walk in. And just, that discipline, you have to control your breathing. You're just constantly put in, uncomfortable situations, Yeah. You've got some big guy strangling you every night. It's pretty tough. But you learn you learn how to relax in these, very uncomfortable situations, which to me, I've started applying it to life. You sit there and go, oh, well, I got through that. And, you kind of realize that things aren't always going to be that bad. Which for me, I had quite bad anxiety at times, growing up. And so for me, it's been a massive help for my mental health.
And so with the anxiety kind of side of it then, is it sort of the rules of it, the discipline, the fitness component that help you manage your mind?
Yeah, well, I think Because one thing I didn't realize, in the movies how you see someone get choked and they pass out in like 1 second kind of thing. It's not actually like that in real life. There's a thing called a blood choke where if someone cuts the artery off in your neck that you can pass out quite quickly. But if you're actually just getting breath choked kind of on, the main part of your throat, it actually takes longer than you would think, maybe 5 to 10 seconds depending on the grip. And so I guess it feels like forever though when you're in that situation. Yeah. But in terms of the anxiety, you just sit there and you learn how to stay really calm because it's kind of like chess. So the person that's doing it, they're obviously having to use their forearms or their biceps or any part of their muscle, to try and choke you out. And so if you look like you're reacting to it, they know that it's working, so they'll hold it. Whereas obviously if I told you squeeze your forearms as hard as you can for 10 seconds, there's a point where you eventually just let go.
Yeah.
And so it's like this massive game of chess where you have to make them feel like the choke's not working, like they don't have the grip right or it's not deep enough. And so if you're all panicking and going all red and freaking out, then they know that it's going to choke you. So they'll work through the pain because they might get the tap. Whereas if you sit there very blank and calm and you'll sit there and go, oh God, like it's not working. And there's been a few times, say with my sensei or some of the higher belts where, you've nearly tapped them out and then you let go. And then afterwards they go, why'd you let go? And you're like, well, I didn't think I had you. And they're like, no, you're like a second away. And so, And so it's...
I like the mind game.
It's so many mind games. That's what I love about jiu-jitsu. It's like physical chess.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So do you think everyone, either growing up or at some stage in their life, goes through a bit of anxiety or a bit of pressure or however we want to describe it? Do you think everyone does? Or do you think that particularly with the pressures you had of being a very popular Prime Minister's son, that as we say, you were young, you were in the public eye, social media was just really taking off then, wasn't it? And you were in it.
Yeah, I think that's a really complicated question because I think everyone has their own internal battles. I think my generation and the generations younger than me probably get more anxiety than kind of the older generations, I think because of social media. I think people are constantly comparing themselves and people have filters and people can edit. And I think even I fall into the trap of you see these unrealistic people or things and you sit there and go, oh, I'm not doing enough. Like I went through a phase a couple of years ago where, I'd be online and every kid looked like he had like a Lamborghini and a Rolex and was doing all these things. And I was going, oh God, like I'm still at uni. Like I'm not doing much with my life. It felt like I wasn't doing anything. But then you realize, all these kids have the cars on finance or it's someone else's. Or, and so I think that's with social media, the trap, like girls can fall into the trap of they might look at other girls and like bikinis or this or that and they get body issues. And I think that's...
And so do men now.
And so do men now, yeah.
Boys and men, yeah.
Yep. No, I find that as well. Like I see all those, real big jack gym guys. And I'm like, oh God, I'm out of shape and I get all stressed and, I'm like a really healthy young guy. So
how do you monitor some of that then? So is it a way of limiting, how much you put on social media and how much you sort of take on board, do you think?
Yeah, so I think for me where I was really fortunate was I got to meet a lot of the people I kind of looked up to.
Yeah.
And you kind of realise, as I'm sure you found this in your life, you realise that everyone's just a human, And so say there was some guy that I was like, whoa, he's so good looking and he's cool and he's this. You'd meet him and he wasn't as good at looking in real life and his life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. He's just posting the highlights. And I get that a lot as well. I get people come up to me all the time like, oh, your life looks amazing. It's this, it's that. But in my head, I know that there's heaps of ups and downs and I'm only showing like a very small amount of, it's the top 1%. And so I think that's where I've been quite lucky is in my head, I've kind of seen both sides of it. So I don't get too caught up in it all because I kind of know it's not real. Whereas I think there are a lot of people that they're chasing this dream, but they don't realize that even if they succeed it, they won't have that happiness or they won't find what they're looking for, which is quite a complicated thing to try to explain to people.
Yeah.
But that's why now, I don't really use social media and I'm very driven on my goals because I just kind of realized that a lot of people spend their lives watching other people's lives and they never live their own. And I just got to a point where I was like, this is what I want to do and I'm just going to get obsessed with it and do it. And I don't really care what anyone else is doing or how good their life seems because I want to live mine.
Yeah.
And it seems really basic, but I feel like a lot of people have forgotten that.
Yeah, we do. And I think, as you say, I think we all go through ups and downs in life and however we want to term it and that sort of thing. But the thing with social media equally is our young people can't get away from it, right?
Yeah, it's
very hard to get away from.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem is everyone's on it. So, because I had about 18 months where I didn't really use it. I didn't post and kind of just spent a bit of time like doing me. And it was hard because you feel really disconnected.
Yeah.
You know, and you go out for dinners, everyone's just on their phone. I don't really know the solution anymore. I've kind of just started hanging around people that are less into it.
Yeah.
That was kind of my my way around it. But
Hey, so I remember the social media post of you planking. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Because it was all a big thing then.
Yeah,
wasn't
massive.
It? And it was kind of what you did. But there were lots of others and lots of different times. Do you ever regret the image that you portrayed? I mean, you sort of said sometimes about how people thought you lived this sort of perfect life. Do you regret any of that image that you portrayed?
See, it's interesting. I feel like the one thing I do feel with my social media was a lot of people will post stuff that isn't actually real, you know, or they'll kind of fake a lifestyle. I was never faking a lifestyle. Like the stuff I was posting, I actually was doing. So I never felt like a fraud in that sense. But where I didn't like how I portrayed myself was that I have always been quite intellectual. Like I've always studied really hard.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not this kind of like dropkick party kid. I don't ever really go out. I don't actually like drinking. You know, I've never been into drugs. And so that was the only thing I regretted, that I'd meet people and they'd be like, oh, how's the DJing, you vlogging? Or they just kind of, they wouldn't talk to me like I was doing anything. You know, I was kind of just this drop kick in their eyes, almost just like a meme sort of. And that was the only thing I regretted a bit. It wasn't that I felt like I was faking it. You know, everything I was posting I was doing. Like, whereas, you know, you'd get these kids that wouldn't be doing it and they just kind of Photoshop or whatever. So I never felt like that kind of fraud. But yeah, I guess there was this bit of me inside that felt like I wasn't showing the real me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was like a 21-year-old boy. Like, you know, I was still trying to work myself out. And so I, to be honest, I don't actually have any regrets. To be honest, given how much like I was under the microscope, and I don't actually think I got too much wrong.
No, you didn't.
You know, I was 13 when Dad got in. I look at a lot of my friends' kind of lives, and if they were in my position, like they would have gotten in a lot more trouble, I think. So I think, on the whole, like it was all good.
You know, I always say, Max, that I think that for a lot of my life, I've sort of been underestimated, and mine is for a different reason. It's because I can be sort of a big personality and, you know, wear a lot of colour and I sort of bounce into a room kind of thing. And so everyone thinks I'm just the good fun girl. That's a bit of... And that actually there's a whole lot of hard work and intellect that goes on behind. And it's people like your dad that sees it, right? You know, that actually got that and brought out the best and challenged me. I, in the end, often used that underestimating. And I just think, well, while you're laughing at me, I'm working harder and I'm getting on with it.
Well, that's kind of exactly what I did. I mean, people would always be like, oh, you need to go to uni or you need to get a job. But the whole time I was a DJ, you know, I was working full-time at Jardin, had a great job, had 2 degrees, you know, so I always knew what I was doing. So I was never too worried. And I kind of just got this mind frame for a bit. It was almost like a rebellion where I was like, I don't care what anyone thinks. Like, I'll just do what I want, you know, and I kind of, that was my way of rebelling a bit.
Hey, and the people that you care about, care most about you, actually, you know, I know your mum and dad are extremely and have always been extremely proud.
Yeah, and so that was where it was hard, was everyone, as you said, that I knew and cared about knew that I was, what I was doing. It was all these people that didn't know me, but I guess now I'm at the point in my life where I do want to walk into a room and people respect me because I'm a good businessman, not just because I'm John Key's son, not because I was some DJ kid. You know, I actually want, and, you know, it's starting to be quite cool. Like, I'll go into these business meetings or construction things, and I bumped into the CEO of Kiwi Bank, and he was like, oh, congrats on what you're doing. You know, stuff like that really makes me, like, super happy because I feel like the right people now, I'm starting to get their attention as opposed to getting the wrong attention from the wrong people. So...
Very shortly, we're going to get into the second part of the podcast, which is where we're going to talk a lot about your business, how you started it up, some of the risks around that. But I'm going to end this one with the burning question, which is, how's your love life? Is there anything you want to share?
I'm still single.
Oh.
I guess it's tough kind of juggling everything.
Yeah.
You know, when I was training for world champs for jiu-jitsu, I was training 12 times a week, you know, running my business. So I literally I didn't have time. And then now I'm finding... I just don't think I'd be a very good boyfriend right now. I don't have the time to commit, I don't think.
Yeah, that's cool.
Not commit as in like I couldn't be loyal. It's more just I'm so busy, you know, like I'm at the office 12 hours a day, and then by the time I get home, I go to training every night. By the time I see my parents a little bit, I'm kind of like I probably have one night to see people. And
And you're allowed to prioritise you for now.
Yeah.
You're young enough and you don't have to be. And
Well, I've never actually done that. I've always kind of prioritised relationships. I've always thought that was super important. So it's been quite weird. I've been quite selfish the last 6 months. And
will you get to summer festivals?
no, I'm not really into that stuff anymore.
Oh, okay.
Nah, I've kind of...
I wouldn't have even known which ones to ask.
Yeah.
So that's all right.
Nah,
I wouldn't have been very good at that.
Yeah. No, I've kind of... I don't know. I've just kind of moved on from all that stuff.
Coming up next, we are going to delve deeper into Max's business ventures and get some advice and tips for starting our own business. We are going to rip into some advice now, and I'm really keen to learn more about your business, how you started out, and to find out what you've learnt along the way. I know your business partners. I know a little bit about property, but you're the one that's really taken that risk, and starting a business. So you founded MTK Capital, didn't you, in 2019?
Yep.
And the last year has seen the launch of Stonewood Quay.
Yeah.
So talk to me, mate. I mean, what made you start your own property business, really, 3 years ago?
Yeah, well, so Dad and I were having quite a funny discussion. This is probably 5 years ago. And we were like, what are the 3 kind of ways that you build massive wealth? You know, not just you have a good income and that kind of, how do you get super rich? And we kind of settled upon these 3 ideas. So idea 1 was that you had to have like a natural skill. So you're good at like basketball like LeBron, or you're a singer like Adele, or... and as you know, Dad and I can very much not sing. We are terrible.
No singing.
Yeah, no.
Or for him, dancing.
Dancing, exactly. Any of those things we kind of didn't tick. So kind of ruled that out. Then the next one was you have to start a business. Mm-hmm. So be like entrepreneurial, set up like a Facebook or, a clothing label, something like that. So again, we thought that's like a really cool idea, but didn't really have the kind of that $1 million idea at that point in time. So then the final way that we thought that you could, build that massive wealth is through property. And so, I mean, obviously we're missing out a few things like, if you own like an oil field or things like that, but that kind of stuff you're born into a little bit.
Yeah.
So we kind of ruled that this is stuff that we felt you could control. So the third one, as we said, that we decided was property.
Yeah.
And so he kind of came to me and said, I want you to come up with an idea of how we could sort a business that could become intergenerational.
Nice.
And so the RMA at that point had just changed. And so that allowed developers to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, through a friend, stumbled upon the idea of relocatables. And so where this was like a really cool idea was, obviously now like I'm doing lots of units and doing big scale stuff, but at the time, the thought of building 8 new houses on one site was very daunting. I didn't know anything. I'd done a property degree, so I understood it, but I had no idea what I was doing. Like, learning it on paper and actually building homes is...
Sure.
And that's what I think is crazy about property is, say when I was a trader at Jardin, it's all online. It's all just a big Excel spreadsheet. Whereas with property, you actually have to deliver a home that someone has to live in and it works. It's a completely different ballgame.
And people building it and doing it are the key to it, right? So it's relationships.
It's all relationships.
All of that.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
And so we didn't want to bite off too much at the start. And so we stumbled upon this relocatable idea. So
what's a relocatable?
So,
because they can mean different things, right?
Yeah. The way my business model worked was, say that there was an existing, call it a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house on a site. We would pick that up, move it to the back of the site.
Yeah.
And then we would grab another state home or another home that was, getting ready to be sold.
Yeah.
And we'd put it on the back of a trailer and then move it onto the site. And so the beauty of this was that you had the existing home that was already there.
Yeah.
You'd give it a lick of paint, maybe do a bit of a refit, move another one on, kind of do another remodel on that. And then it was a really quick way to be in and out. It taught me how to do sub-trades and kind of taught me the whole process. But that was kind of the original plan. But when we got into it, we actually started doing quite big renos. So we made like massive indoor-outdoor kitchen flow, took heaps of walls out. They were basically brand new houses by the time we were done. It just sped up the resource consenting process because you had the existing home. And so for me, it was awesome.
And building in the right place, that's important, isn't it?
Oh,
If you're
100%.
building a beautiful home in the end.
Yeah.
You're not just kind of fixing it up a bit and you ended up actually building a beautiful home. So then that where you're building them really important.
Location is everything in property.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the only thing that matters in mine. Location, location, location. But yeah, so I mean, when we started it, the idea originally was we would start very small. You know, it was we were going to renovate a bathroom and a kitchen. Actually, sorry, I actually missed a step. The very first thing we were going to do was literally that: buy a house, renovate the bathroom, renovate the kitchen, sell it. But it just, to us, that seemed like a lot of risk for not that much upside. Because these days, you know, you can buy a kit set kitchen and you can do a bathroom pretty cheap. And so we were just like, it seems like a lot of effort to make kind of no profit. So then we were like, well, how can we make a little bit more? And so then that was when the relocatable idea came up. It started off thinking this was still going to be quite small renovations to the home. And the first one we did, you know, we ended up having to put in 8 tanks for the government for overflows.
God, you would have learned a lot, eh?
Oh,
just
like
the process and
everything.
councils and
Yeah, we're like re-upgrading the sewer systems. It ended up being a monster build. And so, yeah, I learned so much just in the first.
Would you give people advice to do something like that themselves?
I mean, it's really tough. So with relocatables, it's really hard to get funding from the bank.
Yeah.
I think because the homes exist, there's some rule, I don't want to give advice on this, but there's some rule where it makes it
It's
hard.
not a new home and it's not
So it's just like a bit of a murky space. And if it falls off the trailer, you're not insured. And so it's tough. Like for us, it was really good because we had capital.
Yeah.
So that was a really cheap way for us to try a development instead of, you know, borrowing millions from the bank and kind of taking all that
But
risk.
you made a lot of mistakes and you learned a lot in that first year.
Yeah.
As starting your own business, you learned that it was quite hard and the product you were doing. But people that are sort of sitting out there listening to this and thinking about it, what's the sort of advice?
Well, I think, because I get a lot of people come up to me now and they go, oh, and say it's January, and they go, oh, I'm looking at quitting my job in October and next February it looks like the market might turn and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. To me, that's just not how I roll or how my dad's ever rolled. I have quite bad ADD, so I'm very like, I have to do things now.
Yeah.
And so my advice is the best way to do anything is just start it. It's like a diet. People always go, oh yeah, I'll start that on Monday. Whereas when I get my head on an idea, I just do it that second.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be like, okay, I want to do it now.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying jump into like a new business venture and quit your job and do reckless things, but I don't think there's ever a right time. It's like the property market. You know, when you're in a big bull market, it's hard to buy stock. When the market's kind of going down a bit like now, it feels scary. 2 years ago, I would have not told you to rush into a property business. And right now, I wouldn't tell you to rush into one. You know, so I don't think there's ever a right time. I think you just have to trust your gut on what feels right.
I love the saying, is the cup half full or half empty? Who cares? Take a sip.
Yeah, just go for it.
You know what I mean? Like, you've sort of got to do something sometime. Or as I used to say, you don't want to be a gunner. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Gunner.
Yeah.
And then you actually turn around and go, well, it's 20 years later and just what have I done?
Totally. And so that's kind of how I do things. Like, I would rather give it a go, fail, even if everyone laughed at me. I could sit there and be like, well, I tried it.
Yeah,
and then I would know. You know,
but some would argue it's easier for you. You've got the backing of your family, of your parents, of.
But see, I look at it a completely different way. I think that's the easy answer. It's easy to say, oh yeah, it's easier.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I have everyone watching what I'm doing, and there's a lot of people out there that want me to fail. So there's way more pressure. You know, there's a lot of people that don't have everyone judging and analysing. Every little thing I do, people scrutinising. Just constantly lawyers looking through stuff and people just trying to find any excuse to make me fail. Yeah. So it depends how you look at it. I mean, sure, yeah, I'm lucky I've got the capital and I'm very fortunate for that and super grateful, but doesn't mean it's easy or that sometimes I sit there and go, maybe it would have been easier without all that. Yeah. I don't know.
No, all you know is what you know. And you're right, there's two sides to everything.
There's two sides to it, yeah. But obviously I'm never going to sit there and feel sorry for myself. It's just, to me, that's all part of the challenge. And to me, it adds more. I love pressure. Pressure kind of drives me. So I think without that, you know, maybe I wouldn't be as committed to it all.
And so you've gone big venture this year then, really. So that merging of Stonewood Quay.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that. And, you know, you've sort of talked about raising a lot of capital. It's been a tough year in property.
Very tough.
Talk to us a bit about where you're at and where you see it heading over the next year or two.
Well, so MTK Capital, the whole idea behind that business was it was just kind of like a very small family business. Like it was just me. I was literally the only one in the company. And so we purposely named it something that the media wouldn't pick up on, that we just had this very minimalistic kind of website and we had really cool design. My friend did it all. And so the whole plan was that it wasn't this big thing. It was something that I chipped away at over a few years and built up a portfolio. And that was the original plan. But kind of got 3 under my belt in the first 2 years and went, I can do this, I didn't think I was like a gun or anything, but I decided, why don't we scale things up a little bit? And so Dad was like, yep, that's a good idea. And so what my idea was I was like, why don't we call a group home builder and they can do new builds for us? And I said that, okay, we're going to lose a little bit of margin because they're going to have their fees in there and project management, blah, blah, blah. But by going to them, if we could do 10 projects a year instead of 2, well, okay, yeah, maybe we lose 2% margin on every development. But if we're doing 10, we're going to be making way more money and there's way less risk because you got a group home builder.
Yeah.
And so originally Dad was like, no, we're not doing that. Like the whole point of this is keep it small. And I think he realized after the success of the first 3, because we did really well in the first 3, he actually got behind it. And so he goes, all right, well, I know the Chows quite well and they'd been trying to get us in for ages to just see their operation.
Yeah.
And so we ended up giving them a call during lockdown and we were like, look, we found these sites. Would you be interested? Blah, blah, blah. And they turned around and kind of went, nah, these are crap. Like, there's no return on these sites. Like, you shouldn't do these.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, okay. So then we go back to the drawing board, find a few more and they go, nah, these are crap.
And they know their stuff.
They know the stuff really
Yeah.
well. And so when I say crap, they were like 19% return.
Yeah.
Whereas they only operate 25 or over.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, we were sitting there going, oh, like, thought 19 was pretty good. Because at the time, if you're making like 10 to 12, that was pretty solid.
Yeah.
And so basically Dad cheekily goes, well, if they're crap sites, basically show us a good one. So then they end up showing us one. And then after like many Zoom calls, we ended up signing a deal and we did a JV on one.
Yeah.
So then I went and found another site and then they were like, wow, that is actually a really good site. Let's do that one. So then we do a second one. And then by the time we found the third one, we're sitting there going, well, what if we got other people's money involved? And then, then that escalated. And then we kind of all sat there and went, right, well, what's everyone bringing to the table? So obviously Stonewood has, the name, the reputation.
Yeah.
They have all the infrastructure. So then it was like, well...
Right throughout the country.
Yeah, throughout the country, yeah. So then it was like, well, what do the keys bring? And so obviously, I have my property knowledge and, Dad has capital and understanding of property as well. But really what we're bringing to the table is the brand. Yeah. And just that exposure we can bring. And so I'm kind of in my dream role right now. I get to do all this awesome property stuff. I get to do the deals, help out on site, but I'm just building the brand, doing things like this podcast. Like I'm in charge of sales and marketing.
Good on you.
And so literally all I'm doing is just massively trying to get the brand out.
So goals for the next 5 to 10 years?
Goals are definitely just to expand. I want to get to a point where we're doing like 1,000 homes a year. Yeah. Raise 100 million for the fund. Yeah. That's probably in the next year. But yeah, 5 to 10, just keep growing. I mean, I feel like I'm quite, I don't know what the right word is. I feel like I'm kind of like water. I don't like being too fixed with my goals. I know that sounds really bad and this probably isn't the greatest advice to give, but to me, fluidity is so important. So it's like with social media strategies. I don't want to sit here and go, I'm going to post 3 times a week at these times and do this, because if that doesn't work, then you're just constantly doing the wrong thing. I like to be super adaptive, say the market changes for 1 week, it's a bit quiet, okay, we do this. Then like the OCR moves, okay, let's make a video. But, I like to react to stuff a lot, as well as have the kind of strategy.
And you know the pathway you're heading on. So
yeah. But where I'm going with that... It
doesn't have to be too narrow. It's allowed to be quite broad.
Totally broad, yeah. And so I guess where I was going to go with that is I don't want to sit here and go, I want to build 1,000 homes in 5 years, because there's people out there that they get fixated on that and then they grow for the sake of growing, as opposed to growing because it's the right call. Yeah. If the market stays a bit quiet for the next 3 years, well, I don't want to commit to 1,000 homes a year because I'm just overexposing myself. But I'll find other avenues where, we can add value to the business. But, if the market goes nuts, maybe we're doing 2,000. But so that I guess, it's hard to know in 10 years, because 2 years ago I was like, I'm never going to do new builds. And now I'm building 186. So it's so hard to, in 10 years we might be doing.
And you worried about the property market at the moment and selling them?
No, I think to me, I was more scared 2 years ago because to me it felt out of control. We'd never seen growth like that year on year. It
wouldn't last, right?
Nah.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
And that's what I find tough, is everyone sits there and goes, oh, it's so easy to make money in property the last 2 years. And I couldn't disagree less. I mean, every single auction I went to since 2020, I walked out going, oh God, I've paid too much. Like I remember me and Dad went to the second site we bought, Richardson Road. We went in and we were like, we won't pay over 1.2. Like absolutely not. 1.2 is where it stopped. CV was like 1080, which at the time, paying over CV, we were like, whoa, this is crazy. Yeah. And then we ended up buying it for 1.41.
Yeah.
Dad and I got in a bit of a bidding war with someone. And I remember it was the most somber drive home I've ever had. Like, it was so quiet. We were both like, oh God, like, what have we done? Like, Mum's looking at us like, you boys are idiots. Like,
Yeah. We had an agreement before we walked in.
And Dad and I like, we need to be more disciplined. Like, and so we were like, in hindsight, it was a fantastic buy. Like, that site, almost doubled kind of thing. And so, not quite, but that's the thing with property is I feel like you always feel like you pay too much and you never feel like you get enough when you sell. I think that's the thing is, to me, I don't see the market going down right now. To me, it's just a bit of a correction for all the craziness.
Yeah.
Because I look at all our feesos, because we sat there and went, okay, we need to like recheck all our numbers and redo everything because everyone's freaking out about the market, like so-called crashing. And so we brought all our feesos back up and we're actually exactly where our feesos were when we bought everything about a year ago. So to me, like, I'm not in a state of panic. I think the only thing I'm mildly concerned about is just tough getting sales. But it's not even that people don't have money. I mean, we have a lot of inquiries. We have a lot of people coming through. People still wanting to buy. I think they're just scared of putting pen to paper. And so we've slightly adjusted our strategy from aggressively being like, the price is this, price is this, price is this, because that's all people cared about, to we're trying to help them get in, extend the DD period, make them feel comfortable, kind of make them realize that we're not in a rush for them to buy these things.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone got very accustomed to,
you need to be very fast.
Yeah, you just have to be quick. And so it's very conditional on their home selling and they might only have 3 months of pre-approved finance. And so we're just trying to work more with our clients now to help them through that process, as opposed to, as you said, last year it was just a speed contest.
Yeah.
Like,
and I guess that's the advice, right? Is that in business, being adaptable, being able to move and understand your customer and actually relate to that is probably the best thing you'll do and the best way you'll still be in business in the days to come.
And that kind of re-looping back to the jiu-jitsu thing, that's actually what Joe Rogan talks about. Is he uses the analogy of, say that you wanted to do 50 pull-ups by the end of the year. And say you got to like December 31st and you got to 48, or say you got to 46, like you could do 46. And then to get those extra 4 to like complete your goal, you maybe had to drop another 5 kilos, you had to stop training your other sports, and you had to go to work an hour less because that 1% increase or whatever, or 10% increase, that's what it took to get to the goal.
Yeah.
His whole point is that you constantly need to be reevaluating your goals, because say with that one, would it be worth dropping all those important things in your life just to do 4 more pull-ups? Because the whole goal of that was to build strength and develop like a muscle that maybe you didn't have. And so that's kind of how I look at it is, obviously I have goals where I want to be the biggest like builder and, I want to do all these things. I want to be a billionaire, but I don't want to get so fixated on that you do something that blows you up just for the sake of achieving the goal. Because if it takes an extra 2 years, or maybe for 1 year I build to rent, and then next year I do this. That to me is like how I like to kind of do business.
Yeah, good on you.
Which obviously I'm young, so there's probably a lot of people listening that
but make the most of it, man.
Yeah.
Go for it.
But that to me is like my gut feeling on it. So
good on you. Good on you. All right. So Max, the podcast is called Ask Me Anything.
Yeah.
So this is the one little bit where you get to ask me a question, which could be kind of interesting because, you've worked with your father for so bloody long. So is there anything you'd like to ask me?
I have a weird angle I'm going to ask.
Okay, go on.
Nothing to do with politics. So I get asked this all the time. I always get asked, how do I juggle kind of my life? Like, how do I juggle everything going on, like work, this and all these things? And the one thing that I find difficult is like what you asked me at the start is to do with my dating. And so what would you say to someone kind of my age or 25 to 30 where half of my friends are kind of married and having kids, and then the other half kind of like degenerates and just partying a lot and just have no care for that? What would you say to someone my age, like, to prioritize? Would you focus more on your work? Do you try find time for dating? Or
Because I was single for a decent part of being a public figure and an MP. So just on the dating side, so I got to a stage where I did want to meet someone. So I decided I would say yes to a date when the opportunity arose. So, or I only had to go for coffee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, you know,
yeah.
but at that level, I just sort of thought I was becoming almost a bit withdrawn. I was so busy that I was kind of making up excuses not to actually try and meet someone. That was a really interesting year. And I've got to say, there are a number of people I would just sit there and think, you're not interested in getting to know me. You just want to be able to go out there and say you went on a date with me. You know what I mean? Like, it's about my profile. It's not actually about me as a person.
Yeah.
So I learnt to weed them out, and I can imagine that happening with you as well, you know, a lot. And I imagine it's already happened and probably happens to you weekly, quite frankly, if you're going out or something like that. So definitely for me, authenticity. And you'll just know when it's right for you. But then on that sort of side, and you're in no hurry, but the juggling is, it's like everything else that you were saying in your life and in business and everything else, and it's the same in personal, is be adaptable. So you're going to really concentrate on your sport and what you're doing there because it's really good for you. You may feel quite differently at the end of January after you get a couple of weeks off and go, actually, this year I'm going to reevaluate and do a bit more of this or a bit of that. And why not? And you'll work that out for yourself if you give yourself a little bit of space to do it. And look, I'm definitely not doing the hours I used to do in politics, but I would be doing the variety, and I have to jump from one thing to the next. And that takes a lot of managing. And I love it, right? So it's when you sit down at the end of the day and go, do you love what you're doing? And if the answer is yes, then, you know, you'll work it out, really.
Totally.
Cool. Okay, this is also where you get to say zip it, sweetie. You probably don't even remember the comment, but, you know, it's my infamous when I was in Parliament and I told Jacinda Ardern to zip it, sweetie. Yeah. And it then took off a bit. And we really talk about something that's sort of killed the buzz this week. And I was thinking about you, and for mine, and it's as relevant today, leave politicians' families out of it. And actually respect that they do have families, because my own went through ups and downs. And look, you can say what you like, but I always used to think I'm the one that put my hand up for a public role.
Totally.
And I try and do it. I really try and hard to be respectful of that, no matter who they are, what their politics are. And so that's my zip it, sweetie.
I think one thing that upsets me these days is we're all for freedom of speech, you know, and being able to say what we want. But you know, I feel like when people have opinions that certain people don't like, you know, there's like this cancel culture. Yeah. You know, and I think, to me, I feel like we kind of need to be one or the other. We're either freedom of speech or we're not freedom of speech. But, you know, I feel like if I went out there and went, climate change is fake, I'd get cancelled. Yeah. You know, but then if someone says it's real and gets aggressive with that, there's no problem. You know, and obviously think of climate change is real. But, you know, I think that's the one thing I would say zip it, sweetie, on, is that a lot of people sit there and, you know, if someone disagrees with their view, it's like they need to be cancelled. But to me, I feel like we're all entitled to our own views on things. And you don't have to listen to it, right? Nah. You definitely don't have to agree. Nah, and that's what I'm saying, is I'm not saying these people are right to think that. But to me, even when I run business, I always walk and I'm like, I ask all my employees, I'm like, what do you think? Yeah. And yeah, sometimes I think the opinions are really stupid, but then I've heard it makes me think about mine, and that's how I think we should. Okay, Max, it's been so great to catch up with you today. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. If anyone wants to know more about Stonewood Quay, where do they go to find out? Stonewoodquay.co.nz. Yeah. Or all our social medias are just Stonewood Quay. Cool. Easy. And that is a wrap on another episode of Ask Me Anything, and a wrap for 2022. Thank you so much for listening in and joining me on my journey this year. I have absolutely loved bringing this podcast to you, and I'll be back with more for you in 2023. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch, you can email me using askpaula@nzherald.co.nz. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Make sure you follow Ask Me Anything on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also read my weekly column in the Herald on Sunday. I'm Paula Bennett. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. This is Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.